everything moves slowly in this languid little place on Australia's doorstep. As morning unfolds, people gradually make their way into the early light and their day ahead. It's all very unrushed, unless you're on a motorbike and you're heading into the mayhem of Dili's Bairo Pite clinic.
Ulun side. Ulun the belly side. Ulun tune. Here,
it's action stations, and American Dr. Dan Murphy is often running on his relentless rounds.
There is really no access to anything near adequate health care. In every category in health, their numbers are worse than most of Southeast Asia.
One man and his small team of volunteers taking on a case list that would overwhelm many medical professionals.
The chronic nature of it still makes me lean towards TB.
To the north of here, the booming, bustling nations of Southeast Asia and their increasingly sophisticated medical systems.
She's had fever, cough, and shaking chills for a week.
To the south, Australia and its internationally recognised healthcare.
This is something.
Dr. Dan is in the thick of arguably the biggest health crisis in our region. But his clinic and Dili's main government-run hospital have precious little money, medicine or technology to deal with it.
There's very few things we can do. We don't have very many meds. We don't have very many diagnostic tools. So mostly we're going by smoke and mirrors and trying to make a good lucky guess and hope that people get better. But you can't do as well as if you had all the right tests. You can see he's down to almost no weight. I think he's 20 kilos or something. It could be something that were he in a more developed country, he could be cured. It's very sad.
Across town, Year 10 students at Dili's largest high school are settling into class. Out front is teacher Thomas Pinto. In many ways, the challenges facing Thomas and this school are similar to those confronting Dr. Dan at his clinic. Scant resources and a massive task, preparing these kids for a challenging world. And if that wasn't difficult enough, Thomas is dangerously ill. When he was younger, he had rheumatic fever, a common illness in East Timor that can lead to lifelong heart trouble. Thomas first started feeling sick about a year and a half ago.
Familia laran entau mulai hare adun saya ladun hare be hane kondisinya ho anisne entau sermos mulai hanu ini tuan tamasane mo anisne entau precisa ba konsulta iha enfermero força lah iha daru madadais la saya entau buatne daru mau oi halai mesak be
Thomas Pinto could die at any moment. His heart is that bad. He has mitral stenosis, which is one of the big curses of the tropics. And this valve gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and pretty soon you have a stroke or you die.
There's quite a simple procedure that would fix Tomas's heart. But specialist cardiac surgery is just one of the many kinds of operations not available in East Timor.
Amnia be governo ne usa. Ebe parte da amnia governa saune be maxidau hari buat tidak nebe anesan operasi nebe mak spesial liuba fuan serne tambah amnia doktor spesial rasik ba fuan musidau kia.
Tomas's best chances lie overseas, but a modest teacher's salary in Dili doesn't get you to a foreign hospital, and his hope of moving up the long government waiting list for international care isn't great. All he can do is wait and pray. This isn't the only place to get treated in town, but it's certainly the busiest. Among the hundreds of people seeking diagnosis and treatment every day at Dan Murphy's clinic, there'll be those like Thomas Pinto who can't be helped. And then there'll be those whose illness would shock and confound a big city casualty department. That's when this doctor and his team come into their own.
Ne santika or ne kruat or ne kruat?
5-year-old Paulo is a suspected case of leprosy, a terrible disease in days gone by where people lost limbs and were banished to isolated colonies.
Liman ein senti hotu lama tekida. Ein dia. Foti hawa karagde kulit. Periksa lepra. No, ami halo analis laboratori lepranian. Ya. Hare hetan.
Mayali. Mamabi. May tama man.
Paulo's dad has leprosy, and there's concern he's passed it on to his son.
Quando sinti la pisera tu hine hatudu hine nega la bele se sne sne husine keras nega quando titi hatudu fal fatin selo hatudu mas tem que tá kamatan compreende la pisera con el
East Timor has the highest rate of leprosy in Southeast Asia. It's a disease that's completely treatable and utterly preventable.
We still see it. And in fact, in the last month, I think I've seen 7 cases. The district of Oikusi has over 500 registered cases.
About the only things Dr. Dan holds on to from his past as a GP in America's Midwest is his accent and his love of basketball. He'd worked in other disadvantaged parts of the world when East Timor caught his eye. He saw a need, packed his bags and left Iowa. That was 16 years ago.
It's not just the practice in Iowa, it's also how does one go about extricating themselves from the middle class? So I found ways of just slash and burn, get rid of everything.
You literally just sold everything and moved to Timor?
Came with one little bag. Yeah.
After Indonesia relinquished its control, substantial aid began to roll in here. In recent years, proceeds from oil and gas mean there's more money in East Timor than there's ever been. Yet according to the UN, 2/3 still live in poverty, 1/3 in severe poverty. There's still billions of dollars worth of unexploited resources sitting in the Timor Sea. But as Australia and East Timor continue to wrangle over who owns the oil field, these extra billions remain in the seabed.
East Timor has never had a chance to develop like the rim of Asia. East Timor has never been given an opportunity. They were a part of the colonial empire of Portugal for 500 years, and then a brutal military occupation by Indonesia for 24 years that knocked everything else out.
East Timor has some of the worst malnutrition rates outside of Africa. Nearly 45% of children under 5 are classified as underweight. The clinic runs a busy inpatient ward dedicated to treating undernourished kids. Four-year-old Osmenia arrived weighing just 6.7 kilos. She just keeps getting diarrhoea and being readmitted.
Osmenia is actually 4 years old.
Yeah, she's 4 years old.
Yeah. And why is she so malnourished?
Okay, so she's malnourished because the mom have lots of children and they are really poor. They live the mountain and it's really hard for them to go to get the water. They have to go down and pick the water. So it's mean that they don't really have like a good hygiene.
Lydia and Sylvia, the carers in charge of this ward, do everything they can to make eating enjoyable. Their efforts pay off. These 5-month-old twins arrived weighing only 2 kilos each.
They came with a very skinny, about 2 kilo, and she's 2.6 kilo. Now she's 4 kilo.
So the babies have more than doubled their weight in the past 6 weeks?
Yeah.
It's a success story here in the malnutrition room.
Yeah, of course. And I'm very happy.
For school teacher Thomas Pinto, faith and prayer have finally paid off. An Australian charity called East Timor Heart Fund will pay for him to fly to Melbourne and undergo life-saving surgery.
Quando a tua operação, ao oferecer-me ia entrega para Maroma, que ia entrega para o doutor especialista de mesmo se tangani.
We are so fortunate to have a group in Australia who have found ways to give state-of-the-art care to poor Timorese people free. It's amazing. And actually, to tell you the truth, Australians in general, I have found to be most generous people.
Thomas Pinto had never flown before and certainly never experienced the sort of cold Melbourne's turned on for his arrival. Members of the local East Timorese community are there to meet him.
Contente. Foi a primeira vez eu lembro só muito para minha rainha, né? Sente contente.
Thomas is on his way to the cardiac unit at Monash Medical Centre. And while the patient heads to the expertise here, in East Timor, the expertise is heading out to the patients. Most of East Timor's population live outside the capital, in regional towns and tiny villages scattered across the island.
Now we're out of Dili, we're on some really remote and rough roads here in the mountains of East Timor, and we're going to one of the Bairo Pite clinic's remote visits. Now where we're heading, the people there might only get to see a nurse or a midwife once a month if they're lucky, so there could be dozens of people waiting for us when we get there.
We're following Ada Gonçalves, who's based out of Bairo Pite Clinic. She's a piece of paper away from her medical degree and is one of the country's most experienced obstetric specialists.
I've been doing this for 6 years, and every time I come out here, I always get inspired because, you never know what you might find out in the village.
On these roads, you never know if you're going to get there safely.
This, I think we should get out of the car. Okay, get out of the car.
This bridge is missing a few wooden planks and the back wheel is nearly hanging off the side.
Masabino, lo color matan tu marela, Masabino. Makanesa, para Masabino la likana. Tu maharela yo soy na lai, bro. See how fun this is, Lusa? This is what we do. Yeah, yay! Hallelujah! All right. Mas bro, you, I don't like you. How do I do it? All right, let's go.
After 4 hours, we arrive in the remote village of Hatulia. And the crowds have gathered for Dr. Ida. She understands these women and the difficulties they face living out here. Dr. Ida grew up just a few villages away.
Those are her people. She's going to try to do something for them. And she was lucky enough to be able to go for 5 years to get medical education in the U.S. and come back and not lose sight of where she came from and go back to those villages.
If there was a doctor like Ida around when she was young, her family might not have lost 3 sons to preventable illness.
2 of my brothers, they died when one was a year and a half, the other one was 2. Both of them died when, of diarrhea. Something in your country, diarrhea doesn't kill people, but here in Timor, it kills a lot of people, especially babies. And we live so far away from the hospital, and they had a diarrhea, and my mother did not know what to do. So, they died of dehydration.
Ida's other brother died of an asthma attack at 17.
Moris umaret ka? Bebe Moris mesa ka? Okay. Sema ko ajuda parto. Hokat was wanted ka? Tam sa labo hospital. And she put the powder talc here.
Every second day, a woman in East Timor dies in childbirth, one of the highest maternal death rates in Asia.
They live so far away from the hospital, and imagine you have to walk, you have contractions, you're in labor pain, and you have to walk all the way from where you live to the hospital. From here to the hospital, it's about 4 to 5 kilometers. Yeah, so a lot of women, they choose to have the baby at home because of that, the distance from their homes to the hospital.
Hello, I'm Kelly. Nice to meet you.
In Melbourne, preparations are underway for the operation to repair Thomas Pinto's rapidly narrowing heart valve.
We're hopeful that we will get a good result so that you will be a lot better and you'll be able to go back to teaching with a lot more energy.
How fear ba, Senor Sir?
Okay.
He trusts you.
Good man. Okay.
Tomas's rheumatic heart valve disease is rarely seen in Australia, so this procedure isn't so common.
Now, can we have the syringe? Okay, the 5 or 6 strength.
Tomas's surgeon inserts a tiny balloon that will inflate and widen the valve that's been restricting blood flow.
Go right up now, up now. Yeah. Up right to the bottom. Yes, down.
We're getting a mean of 4.3.
If all goes according to plan, and doctors are confident it will, then Tomas's heart will function normally. He should be able to breathe much easier and look forward to a longer life.
Breathe 0, it's only...
Yeah. Of course, Tomas Pinto is just one example of a terrible illness that could be simply solved by expertise and resources.
Feel much better?
Yeah.
Happy?
Happy. Very happy.
Senti diaka amoras.
But not everyone is so lucky.
La amoras potruma. He's got a cough. I think it's most likely a nasopharyngeal carcinoma.
Does that mean cancer?
Yeah. Which has pretty good treatment, but it would include radiation and chemotherapy. We don't have either one. In a developed country, he'd have a pretty decent chance. It's another tragedy right here, a young kid. We cannot deal with almost any kind of cancer very well at all.
Sergio's baby sister is a patient in the malnutrition ward. He's the second oldest of 5 kids. Sergio is in year 3, but he's stopped going to school. In Australia, chances are that Sergio's cancer might have been picked up much earlier, treated and beaten.
The surgery is not good enough. We don't have the chemotherapy. We don't have the laboratory backup that you would need to run chemotherapy programs. We don't have radiation. So when you have cancer, it's very serious. You're going to probably succumb to that problem.
East Timor doesn't have a dedicated palliative care program. Morphine is in short supply and rarely used.
Bom dia. Dia vai. Dia aqui tuanga.
In a ward on the other side of the clinic, 11-year-old heart patient Jeca Pereira has just received good news. An Australian cardiologist is coming to Dili in a few weeks to do an echo on his heart, a diagnostic test not normally available here.
What kind of quality of life does Jeca have at the moment?
He's limited in what he can do because he gets out of breath. And you can see he's frail. He can't climb up and get a coconut. Can't play like other kids do.
Once his exact condition is known, he's eligible to be the next patient heading overseas for life-saving surgery. Jeca and his mum are even getting passport photos in the hope it will happen soon. Tomas is providing plenty of inspiration for patients like Jeca. Just days after his surgery, he's the East Timor Heart Fund's guest of honour at the city's half marathon. He won't be running, but his presence will put a spring in the step of many of the participants here.
Oi now mai kokoduni hene. Iha tempo dan nebe maku inventi dan nene hau sintiba oi now lai kala det idane det tambah hau bai ni ante depois.
I still feel like healthcare should be equally provided for everyone. I do not think we should accept in any way that rich people get one standard and poor people get another standard. And if you're born here, you don't get it. If you're born there, you get everything.
Next, follow the journey of a father and son as they expose sexual abuse on the doco Code of Silence. And over on ABC2, Good Game.
We've triumphed in pressure tests. We've thrown our hearts on the line looking for love. We've fought tooth and nail in room reveals. We've danced for our lives. We've sung our lungs out. And we've loved every minute. Now comes the ABC's reality juggernaut.
Reality what?
Juggernaut.
Oh.
Reality Check with Tom Ballard starts tomorrow at 9.
I see into your soul, Doctor. I see beauty, divinity, hatred.
New Doctor Who, coming in August.